from Michigan for the time, and I rise in opposition to H.R. 732, which would prohibit the U.S. government from entering into settlement agreements or enforcing settlement agreements if the settlement agreement includes a term that provides a payment to be made to a third party. In the class action context, these donations are known as cypress. Under existing laws, settlements from federal enforcement actions can include payments to third parties to advance programs that assist with recovery, benefits, and relief for communities harmed by lawbreakers to the extent such payments further the objective of enforcement action. And this bill would cut that ability off. It cuts off any payments to third parties other than the individualized restitution and other forms of direct payment for actual harm. And that restriction would handcuff federal enforcement officials from actually doing justice. And this legislation arose out of the Wall Street Too Big to Fail episode in 2008, which resulted in the Great Recession, where millions of Americans lost their homes to foreclosure because of the actions of these too-big-to-fail banks insofar as the subprime mortgage crisis is concerned. And so the Department of Justice sued these big banks, which, by the way, have continued to just get bigger and bigger after they received their Wall Street bailout. And the American people who lost their homes did not receive a bailout. This legislation is to protect those same banks, and I would add that we've got Steve Mnuchin now as the head of the Treasury Department in the Trump administration. So this legislation is in keeping with that which would protect and coddle these Wall Street thugs who have now ascended to the seat of government and look to lock down their control. With this legislation, they prevent themselves from being sued. My friends on the other side of the aisle are complicit. They support too big to fail. They support the big banks. It's at the expense of the little guy, the people who work hard every day, working for a salary, an honest day's work for an honest day's pay, which seems to be harder and harder to do these days because of the legislation that this Congress passes. This is just another in a long line of pieces of legislation that coddles and protects those who really need no protection. They should be under the jail for what they've done to the American people. I fight against this kind of legislation. It's wrong for America. It's wrong for its citizens. It's great for the big banks. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman.